I've been so underwhelmed and so kind of like disappointed with the shortlist so far, not gonna lie. I didn't realize just how tough these middle grade books on this list would be. Like, genuinely, like, these are quite hard to rate. None of them have been how I've expected them to be or wanted them to be, quite honestly. This was actually a really hard one to talk about. This isn't a spoiler for the story, it's just something that happens that was rather disturbing, and I'm a bit shocked that it's in a middle grade. So an honestly great change of pace for this video, quite honestly. I was starting to lose hope. Hey everyone, welcome back to How to Train Your Gavin. The Goodreads Choice Awards shortlist has just been announced, and this is something that I really wanted to do this year. I have seen other booktubers do this in years prior. Two of my biggest inspirations for this video are Kayla from Books and Lala, who has done like thriller and horror ones, and Chandler from Chandler Ainsley, who has done the romance ones. I just absolutely adore them. I adore their videos. So I really wanted to do one where I read the middle grade and children's shortlist, and it's just been announced. It is November 30th today, and I have been keeping an eye on the long list, and I was like, I have read some of these, like I might not have to read that much for this video. The shortlist has just been announced, and I need to read more books than I anticipated, which is fine. But I will say that there was one book that I absolutely adored that was on the long list and didn't make the shortlist, and that was Root Magic by Eden Royce. Honestly, robbed. I absolutely love that book so much. It's just absolutely incredible, and I really wish it had made the shortlist. So even though it didn't make the list, if you haven't read it yet, please do so. It's fantastic. So yes, let's get into the shortlist and what I'll be reading in this vlog. Right, I need to grab one of them actually, and I'm going to be standing up, so you're going to see that this like shirt doesn't really fit me properly. I bought this from Wish last year. I mean, it fit when I first put it on, but after a wash, like literally one wash, it wouldn't fit anymore. So I haven't worn this since. But you know what? It's a kind of really cozy day. I have a coffee. You know, it was snowing recently as well, and I smell snow. So I thought, you know what? Gilmore Girls, let's do it. Anyway, I'm going to grab a couple of books. It's a tank top. Right, so let's talk about this shortlist. So, two of the books that I've already read and are on the shortlist are Amari and the Night Brothers by Baby Alston. Do I need to say any more about this book? I absolutely freaking love and adore this book so much. I will talk about this book as well. Like, I'm going to give a little review of this, you know, my thoughts of what I already think of it, so that this vlog is dedicated to the entire shortlist. And if you haven't yet read Amari, hopefully you will pick it up after I talk about it. And another one I've read is Daughter of the Deep by Riordan. This one is a bit of a more recent read. I've read this one twice. I've read Amari and the Night Brothers twice. This one I read, was it a month ago now? It was some kind of time ago. And I did enjoy this as well, so I will give a review and rating on this one too. But I kind of just want this to be a bit of an introduction, talk about which books are on the shortlist, and then talk about each book individually when I've read them, or in the case of these two, I've already read them, so I will just let you guys know what I thought of them. However, I should have charged the battery of this before I started, and it's starting to run a bit low, so I will do that in a separate update. I've already read two of them, and that means I have 8 to read. I was genuinely convinced I would only need to read maybe 6 at the most. More fool me. So the other books on the shortlist that I have not yet read are Starfish by Lisa Phipps, Ground Zero by Alan Gratz, Beasts and Beauty, Dangerous Tales by Simon Shanani, Never After, The 13th Fairy by Melissa de la Cruz, Arusha in the City of Gold by Roshni Chokshi, Bridge of Souls by Victoria Schwab, Alone by Megan A. Freeman, and Eyes That Kiss in the Corners by Joanna Ho and illustrated by Dung Ho. There was only one picture book on this list. I mean, it's a little bit unfair to make, you know, one picture book compete with 9 middle grade books, but you know. So that is the shortlist, and I mean, it is November 30th. I still have a couple of books left on my November TBR, but it is the last day of Believeathon, so I might just plow through those later and see if I can maybe make a start on this. The only one that I don't really have is Eyes That Kiss in the Corners, but I can just order that, or I might just get the Kindle version of it, which there is one, and I can just use the computer reader to read it, since it's, you know, illustrated, heavily illustrated. It's a picture book, so I need to make sure that I pay attention to the illustrations and look at them, because it's most likely going to be very beautiful. Yeah, I'm excited about this little challenge, and again, like, all credit to the booktubers past who have done this first, but I haven't seen anyone do the middle grade and children's one yet. Maybe someone has, I've just missed it. I apologize. I'll make a prediction. I feel like the 2 books that I've read are going to win. Like, I feel like one of these is going to win. I really want it to be Amari and the Night Brothers. Honestly, it's one of my favourite middle grades of all time. I want this one to win the most. I mean, I haven't read any others yet, so I don't want to make that claim just yet. But my heart is on this one. However, I think Daughter of the Deep by Rick Riordan might win. Just because it's Rick Riordan, you know? I do really want Amari and the Night Brothers to win. That is my prediction. I want Amari to win, but I think Daughter of the Deep will win. So take with that what you will. I am going to go and finish up my November TBR because that's rather important. Hopefully I can get into the Goodreads books ASAP. I accidentally left my tea to steep for like 15-20 minutes. I haven't ever steeped a tea bag that long, and usually it's like 5 minutes max. But I will let that cool down. I want to talk about Amari the Night Brothers first. Amari the Night Brothers is one of my favourite middle grade books of all time. I think I already mentioned that. I also did an interview with baby Alston earlier in the year, and it was like the first middle grade author interview I did in 2021, and it was incredible. I love baby Alston so much. I love his book. I love everything. I just love it, okay? I do want to talk about each book in this vlog, so even though I've talked about this book 100 times before on my channel, I'll talk about it again. I don't mind. So this one follows Amari, and her brother Quentin has been missing for, I think it's about 6 months, and she ends up finding a suitcase under Quentin's bed with an invitation for her to join the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs. And the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs trains people up to kind of face supernatural threats, supernatural things, and just, yeah, people kept describing it as like Men in Black meets Nevermore, and yeah, I can totally see the comparison. Once I read it all, twice at this point, once I read it all, I realized that it's just like so much more than that. It's its own unique thing, and I am obsessed with Amari and everything about it. One of the things I absolutely love about this book the most, though, is Amari as a character. She is very driven, she's very strong, she goes through so much, and yet she still fights back at everything that is hurled at her. She is like the best protagonist to root for. You really want her to succeed, you really want her to win, and you have this like kind of side element about the Night Brothers, and that evil kind of undercurrent in this book made it so intriguing, so interesting, and we never really got a whole lot of information to begin with because we are being introduced to this quite vast world, so there's quite a lot to take in. There is a lot of information that is given to you, but also Amari is discovering this for the first time, so we get this in like little bits. We get these in very accessible bits as well. We're learning as we go, as well as Amari is. It's just so brilliantly written. There are some incredible surprises in this as well, and if you've read this before, you will know, but there are some like twists and turns which I wasn't really expecting, and I just really liked that, and I like the way that the dynamic shifted for that. Like, it wasn't just a shock value thing, it was something that's really going to shake the status quo going into book 2, and I'm so excited for book 2. I think it's Amari and the Great Game, which comes out in April 2022, I believe. So excited for it. But this just opened up even more possibilities of an already expansive world, as well as the relationships between characters going forward. And I think one of the reasons why this is one of my favorites is because of how action-packed and exciting this was throughout. Even when it wasn't as action-packed as the rest of it, it was still very meaningful. There were like lots of conversations between characters that were, you know, helping to build this world and to build like character personalities and things like that. So everything felt very necessary, and even during like slower moments, I felt like I was just constantly thrilled. I could definitely read this for a third time, and I probably will before the second book comes out next year. I just don't have time to reread it like now. It's like December, I work retail, no chance. But I do have a few videos on this book and a lot of reasons why I love it. Amari and the Night Brothers, this is my winner. Even though I read it a year, like the first time I read it was last November, I read an arc of it for Believeathon. It's just one of the best bloody books, man. Loved Amari and the Night Brothers. I would recommend this to absolutely everyone, and this is probably like my new Frostheart. Like, people are probably sick of hearing me talk about it, but I'm still going to talk about it. I don't want to say this because it's very pessimistic, but I just don't think anything will beat this for me. Is my tea cooled enough? Cooled? Is my tea cold enough to drink? Yeah. Daughter of the Deep by Rick Riordan is one that I read, I think about a month ago now, and it was really good. I enjoyed it. This was my kind of, not exactly first Rick Riordan book. I've read the first 2 Percy Jackson books. I was supposed to read book 3. Oh shit, was it this month? Or was it the month before? Anyway, this was my first Rick Riordan book that wasn't Percy Jackson. I did really like it. I didn't love it, but I did think it was really good. So this story follows Anna, and Anna is Indian American. She goes to the Harding Pencroft. I was going to call it Pencroft. Harding Pencroft Academy. And you know, that's like a place where a lot of underwater explorers go to like train and things like that. Yeah, it's like a really important place, essentially. I'm not going to do any spoilers in this vlog, I promise, no spoilers. But you will see that the Harding Pencroft Academy does play a pretty big role in this, even when Anna and everyone is like off on adventures and things. So hard to talk about, actually. This is the first time I've talked about this on a proper video, because I knew this would be on the shortlist. So I was like saving my review for this, even though it's now been like a month and I'm starting to forget. This is very inspired by 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and you can feel that. I've never read it, but you can definitely feel it because there's so many references to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, honestly. Also, though, one thing that I did love as well, there was a reference to the Great British Bake Off, which I love, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it was an orangutan who was obsessed with the Great British Bake Off, and Mary Berry was mentioned a few times, and like the humor in this is fab. Uncle Rick can really write some great authentic character dialogue, and even though I'm not a big fan of references, and I did think there were maybe one or two too many in this book, I still enjoyed the fact that when references were being made, they made the characters feel a little bit more alive and felt a little bit more, I don't know, relatable, rather than just throwing references in there. Yes, one or two too many, but I overlooked it. I was overlooking it, mainly because I was listening to the audiobook as well, and the audiobook of this is fantastic. Honestly, something big happens at the end of chapter 3, and then there's like just this tense music that starts playing, and like this epic music starts playing in the audiobook, and I was like, whoa, holy crap, it feels like I'm listening to a movie, and it was so good. It's such a good audiobook. I would definitely recommend it. But this is, I guess, as well as Amari, there are like things that you have to learn and discover about the world. Sorry, I'm getting a bit hot, so I'm gonna be flashing. So many things to discover about this world that this is a bit more of a slow burn than Amari was. Like Amari, it felt entertaining throughout. This one, as soon as we had this big, tense, epic thing happen at the end of chapter 3, and we did have some exciting little bits after that, it just went into such a lull that I was a little bit bored for like maybe the majority of the middle of this book. And then it started to really pick up again at the end, and I was really like getting into it again. But by then I was a little bit late with it, I guess. I think because something that happens at the end of chapter 3 that really shakes up everything. And I think what, like, I'm comparing this to Amari at the minute. When Amari did it, you kind of could get a sense of the world by that point and care more. Whereas when Daughter of the Deep did it, I didn't really care too much. I mean, it was tense and it was epic and it was amazing, but I didn't really care. And then by the time I did care, it was a little too late. You know what I mean? It took a while for me to really get into this book. And I think it's hard because I'm conflicted, because I did love the action and adventure and stuff in parts of it. And then I just felt like a lot of it just weighed it down. And I think why some of it kind of got dragged down was because there was kind of a lot of technical talk. There are lots of little like battles and things in the middle of it, because Harding Pencroft is in a Cold War with the Land Institute, and there's like little battles and things that really didn't hold my attention because, yeah, there was a lot of technical talk, a lot of machinery and stuff that was being explained that I just didn't really care all that much for, and that really bogged it down for me, I think, as well. I will say though that Anna is a fantastic, in fact there are a lot of fantastic characters in this. Anna is an incredible character. Like, she is, again, like Amari, very driven, very determined and very strong, and this is like middle grade pushing YA, which I think a lot of Rick Riordan books do. The diversity in this was fantastic. There was another, well, a side character who was autistic, Esther, who is like very compassionate and very caring. Yeah, I loved Esther as well, and I loved Anna. I've never read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and I feel like maybe if I did, I might understand this a little bit more, but I don't quite know, because this is its own story. I don't think it's really like a retelling or anything, because Anna mentions this story herself, so it's not, right? I don't know. I feel like maybe I'd benefit more from that. I don't know. Like, let me know if you've read this in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and maybe I should read the Jules Verne book and maybe retry this one and see if I give it a higher rating. It is very strong, like it's very well written, like Uncle Rick can write, but it's just, there were a lot of like elements in the middle that were missing for me, and I don't know if it's maybe me being too picky, but I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook. Like, the audiobook is very good. I do think though that this might win. We'll see. I've just had to stop reading the book I was currently reading. Because I was at work today, I wanted something that was a bit shorter, and Alone by Megan A. Freeman was the kind of next shortest thing that I could possibly read. And I wanted to read it like to and from work, except I slept in. I literally woke up at 8:45 and I was supposed to start my shift at 9. I managed to get my ass out of bed, got an Uber, and I made it to work at 9:05. I was only 5 minutes late. How in the world that happened, I do not know. I must have slept through my alarm. It just meant that I couldn't have my normal breakfast or a coffee before I started work. Honestly, I was mortified. And I just hate being late in general. Like, honestly, it makes me feel off for the rest of the day. I just feel behind for the entire day. Even though it was only 5 minutes, I still felt so behind. Other than that, I did want to read a shorter book so that I could fit it in with work and, listen to it on the way there and back. And so I decided to read Alone by Megan A. Freeman. And this one is a dystopian middle grade, which is very rare, I think. I would consider like Frostheart a bit dystopian, but like that's more fantasy. But this one is contemporary about Maddie, who wakes up one day and everyone is pretty much gone. There is like this imminent threat. So like her parents aren't there and like everyone's pretty much abandoned her. She doesn't know what to do. And she does have a dog called George who is a Rottweiler. And that is like so interesting, and my arm is killing now. I'm just holding this up. Why don't I have my thing? I've got this so I can purposefully hold this camera properly, and I'm not even using it. The best way I can describe this is kind of like, that film Cloverfield Lane or something like that? Was it Cloverfield Lane? Where they're in like the bunker thing? 10 Cloverfield Lane. I've seen that movie, kind of like that movie. And it feels like that, but for kids. But I've had to stop it. I'm about halfway through. I feel like this is a little bit important to talk about because this is a good middle grade. I'm not gonna lie, it's good middle grade. It's very well written, but like this is like specifically, I think if you are a parent, you might want to know about this. And there was something that kind of like triggered me a little bit as well. So I just want to like say what it is and just continue on because I do find this very well written. It is in verse. The chapters are very short, which is fantastic. I do like the writing style. I like the character of Maddie, everything. I want to talk about this more in depth in my next update on this one. But this is a little bit violent, and because it is rather dystopian, it's a little bit Walking Dead-ish, but like no zombies, and it's just Maddie and this dog, and there are looters, and there is a moment that happens about halfway through, and this isn't a spoiler for the story, it's just something that happens that was rather disturbing, and I'm a bit shocked that it's in a middle grade, quite honestly. And actually there's quite a few upsetting scenes, and like I'm not like criticizing this book for having those kinds of scenes, or like having this kind of topic in there, because it makes sense, this is like a little bit dystopian. And well, actually a little bit earlier on, I'm talking all over the place right now, but a little bit earlier on, it's I think a few days after the initial threat or whatever, and everyone's like up and left and she is alone. It's essentially, actually this is Home Alone meets 10 Cloverfield Lane. But Maddie, she is like, going for supplies and things, and she goes into like other people's houses. In trigger warning for like pet death, animal death, she comes across bodies of people's cats and dogs, and it is a little bit upsetting. And I was like, I wasn't too bothered by it because it made sense, because obviously everyone's left and they've left the pets behind, and it's horrible, but it's very realistic in this book. But then something happens about halfway through the book where I kind of had to stop because, and again, like this isn't really a story spoiler, this is just a moment that happens, and if you don't want to hear about it, please do skip ahead. But essentially a looter has a kitten in a bag and bashes it to death, and the fact that that is in this book is just so like horrific. And like, again, I'm not trying to penalize this book for having it in there. I'm just saying, like, I think if I was given this book to a child, I would want them to know, because there is a little bit of violence. There's quite a bit of swearing in this as well. Like, even the main character has used like the P word. Yeah, there's a bit of violence. The main character's learning to use a gun at the minute. It's tricky, isn't it? It's very tricky because it feels realistic, because I feel like this is what a child would have to do if they were left alone in a dystopian world. That's all fine and well. I just want parents to know this if they're going to give this book to a child. I just want people to know this. It's not a bad book. I'm not criticizing the book. I had to stop reading it after the whole animal death thing, because I felt like that was probably just a bit too much for me personally. But I will continue on. It's not a bad book. I'm flying through it. The chapters are, again, so short, and it is good. It is good. But I'm just struggling a little bit with it because of that. But I'm going to soldier on. I'm going to put this camera down because, oh my God, my arms are killing me. I'm literally holding my arm with my other arm. Oh my God, right, I'm putting you down. I'm just using my phone as a makeshift ring light right now. I'm currently watching Jan Agaton's reading sprints right now. Got a tea. Got a tea, but ow, that fucking bit my fingernail. So I managed to finish Alone. And I mean, it was good. It was a good book. I liked it. After that thing happened that I mentioned before, it was a little bit hard to enjoy after that. I don't think it's a story that you really can enjoy because of, I guess, the story of it. It is dystopian, I've mentioned. It's just, it feels very hopeless. Not gonna lie, a little bit depressing. There are a lot of moments that just felt really tough. Not putting anyone off or anything. Like, if I was recommending this to a kid, I would recommend them to kind of the older side of middle grade and ones, or at least readers who are patient. Even then, I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending. This was actually a really hard one to talk about because I think a lot of it was so purposeful and that's effective. Like, it's very hard for this book to stay interesting all the way through because we do have this girl who's alone with her dog. She's been like abandoned by literally everyone, and it is almost like a Walking Dead kind of world. Not really, because there aren't zombies in this or anything like that. With The Walking Dead, I loved the first season. Season 2 was okay, but it started to get a little bit boring. Really enjoyed season 3. Season 4 was very good. I did really like season 5, but I could start to see a little bit of a dip in quality. And then season 6, I was like, I'm not really feeling this. And then I just stopped watching. But it's kind of like you have the survivors on this journey, and it's not exciting all the time. And it shouldn't be exciting all the time because, you know, you've got to at least appreciate the quiet moments. But I think it was very hard for this book to keep my attention. I don't know what it would be like if it was trying to keep a kid's attention. Fortunately, it is very short, very quick. So when there are lulls in the story, it's fine. Like, there is something else around the corner. But what does happen, I just think you would have to, I feel like you would have to almost vet the book before like giving it to a child, I guess. I mean, as long as you're okay with them reading, you know, curse words and violence. But for me, I don't know, I was a little bit triggered. For that reason alone, hey, it kind of impacted my enjoyment. But I don't think that's something that I'm going to penalise the book for. It was very realistic. It may be a little too realistic. So I don't think I can actually rate this book. In fact, I don't think I want to rate any of the books I read in this video. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts on each of them and then, you know, let you know what I think of them, the things I enjoyed the most about them, things I didn't enjoy the most about them, and then tell you what I want to win, which we already know what it is, and all of that. I think that's how this vlog is going to go from now on, because talking about this book, I just don't think I can rate it. Especially now with middle grade and stuff, I think I need to be a bit more mindful of who the real target audience is and if they would enjoy it. And that's mainly because of Ashley from Bookish Realms' video about, you know, critiquing middle grade in YA and critiquing it. Oh my God, I can't say that word. critiquing it too harshly and things like that. So fantastic video. I will link it down below. But that was really good and it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. But even now, like on this book alone, even for the target audience, I think you would have to have a conversation with them about the contents of this book to make sure it's okay for them to read. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not spoiling the ending, but I was really disappointed by the ending. But other than that, very well written. And the audiobook was great. Honestly, the narrator was fantastic. But I am looking forward to the next book now. So what is that? Like 3 books down now from the shortlist? How many is on the shortlist again? Hang on a minute. Not 10, is there? Oh God, I've got 7 more to go. Shit. I need to feel more, I don't know, my spirits need to be lifted a little bit more now, I think. It is like midnight now or something? Oh my God, no it's not. It's nearly 1 a.m. And I thought it was midnight. So we're off to a great start. This was the first official new read for the Goodreads Choice Awards and, oh, my heart. Honestly, my heart. 'Tis a miserable day today, but I have made a lovely coffee. I'm off work, and I am ready to tell you about a couple more books. I literally just had a gob full of froth, and it was amazing. Yeah, I finished Bridge of Souls a couple of days ago. I did like this. I will say that I read books 1 and 2 earlier this year as a reread, and they were really good. I actually preferred them more on a reread than when I first read them. So I wonder if the same thing will happen with this one. I wonder if I reread this in like a year or two, if I will enjoy it more. It was good. I think with this series, even though each book is quite short, it's felt very repetitive, and I think some of it is just in the way that things are described. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Harry Potter references, and this series it just has the Harry Potter references in abundance. I will say that I do not support J.K. Rowling. I'm just putting that out there right now. And you know what? I don't even like HP references. Even when I liked HP, I just find them so overdone, and a lot of authors like tend to overuse those kinds of references to make people more relatable, I think. And it just doesn't work for me. It just rubs me up the wrong way, even more so now. Yeah, this series, one of the biggest flaws of the series is that it just has way too many. That aside, just talking about story, I guess, is that it is a very interesting story, and you know what I love about the series is that we go to different places in each one. We go to New Orleans in this one, which I've always wanted to go to New Orleans. Honestly, I love that place so much. Never been, but I love it. But I love the way it's depicted in like TV shows and movies. It just looks so atmospheric and a little bit creepy, and that's what I love. And that is why that's a perfect setting for this one. I don't think I felt like I was in New Orleans though. I did feel like I was in Edinburgh in the first book. I felt like I was in Paris in the second book, and I visited those two places so I could see like where everything was. I could feel it, and maybe that was partly because I experienced it in real life. So I wonder if because I've never been to New Orleans, that is kind of why I didn't really, I guess, connect with the setting. Maybe it was that. Maybe it was just I didn't find the setting overtly described, so I couldn't really picture it in my head. Whereas I think Schwab did a great job at describing Edinburgh, a great job at describing Paris. I didn't quite feel the setting in this one. With the plot then, the overarching kind of storyline that kind of started in the first book is coming to a head in this book, and you know what, it was very exciting. I kind of liked the way it built up to it, and something happened at the very end of Tunnel of Bones, the book prior, that was really interesting, really exciting, and I was excited to see how that would unfold. It didn't disappoint in that regard. I thought it was a really good build up to that. Well, it was a cliffhanger ending in Tunnel of Bones, and I think it did a good job at addressing that in this book, because it's only like a couple of days later. So what I'm glad about is that it didn't just kind of brush that aside and be like, oh, this was just a cool moment at the end of book 2, let's never talk about it again. This actually kind of followed it through, and I liked that. I thought it was really good. There were probably more conveniences in this book than the previous two books as well. I think some parts of it were just a little bit too neatly done, and I think a little bit unbelievable. Of course, I have to suspend my disbelief when it comes to certain middle grades, of course, but I think there is a way of doing it, and sometimes this towed the line between it. It went from, you know, being a realistic fantasy to one that's kind of breaking its own kind of rules, and just didn't really seem all that plausible. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I kept thinking that I wanted more books from the series, but I actually think this is a good way of closing it out, I think. The only trouble is with this series is, like the characters feel very repetitive. They are saying kind of the same things in every book. Cassidy is feeling very repetitive. I don't think she's growing. I don't think she's grown in a long time. The great thing about this, though, is the relationship between Cassidy and Jacob. Like, I do still really enjoy that dynamic. Jacob is her best friend, who is a ghost. I still enjoy that. However, they do still have a lot of repetitiveness with their relationship. This follows a formula, which is fine. It is part of a series, which is fine. For me personally, I just found it a little bit harder to get through, just because I felt like I'd read it 2 times before in City of Ghosts and Tunnel of Bones. I mean, I did want more books, but I would be happy if this was the last one, quite honestly. Unless there was a big shake-up in kind of how this is written, I guess, then I probably don't want to continue reading this series. But it was good for what it was, and not my Goodreads Choice Award, unfortunately, but it was still a good spooky time, so I would still recommend it if you want something a little bit fun and easy to read. Yeah, this is great for that. A little bit different to City, a little bit A little bit different to Bridge of Souls, then, is Ground Zero by Alan Gratz. Now, it is a book about 9/11, at least it's partly set during 9/11, and then we go into kind of like present-day Afghanistan and the effects that 9/11 had on the people there. It is hard-hitting, of course. It is a book about a very tough subject matter. It's one that is still in a lot of people's memory, I think, and even mine too. I was 9 when 9/11 happened, and I remember that day. My memory is shocking, but I remember that day. I remember where I was. I remember how I found out. You know what? Reading a book like this is, even though I'm not American and I'm kind of just an observer and, you know, I'm far removed from it all, I still feel so much empathy and so much compassion and so much heartbreak for everybody who was affected by that tragedy on that day. But also, not just that day, but the effects of it throughout the world. So Ground Zero follows, well, it's split narrative. Each chapter flips between narrative. In the first narrative, we have Brandon and he's been suspended from school, and his dad has to kind of bring him to work with him. His dad works in Windows on the World, which is at the top of the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Brandon ends up going in with him. It is the morning of September 11, and Brandon and his dad get separated when Brandon goes into the elevator to go down, and that's when the plane hits, and yeah, he's separated from his father. Yeah, it's kind of, gosh, it was a very harrowing, actually. And for a middle grade too, it was very harrowing. And you know what, it's fine, because I feel like it was the same with Alone. Like, there was some kind of like tough subject matter in that too, that honestly I'm still like a little bit shooketh by. But I think with this one as well, with it being like set in the tower, and we are following survivors, and even then some people don't survive, which is again heartbreaking. It's real. This is what happened. Yeah, we're going through the struggles of Brandon trying to get back to his father, and obviously as an adult reader, you know, I think as somebody who knows what happened on 9/11, and I feel like a lot of people who read this book will obviously know, but you kind of get this already sense of dread from the very beginning, and you already know what is going to happen to Brandon's father. And I feel like for me as well, I was kind of like trying to protect myself from that. I was like, okay, I know what's going to happen. I know this. I'm going to just protect myself anyway. It was still a very well written book, I thought, and it was still really good. There were just like so many like rather horrific things. And of course, that's what it's supposed to do. A particular moment was when Brandon sees this woman run through the gasoline that's running down the elevator shaft, the jet fuel, and she gets badly burned, and you know, it's her screams and stuff. It's like described, and yeah, it's harrowing. It really is harrowing. I feel like if you were going to give this to a child, you would want them to make sure that they'd be able to handle that, I think. Glad this book didn't gloss over it, and it still had all of those realistic depictions of what, you know, at least for this author, for Alan, for this author, of what happened that day. And yeah, like, it didn't shy away from it, even though it's middle grade, it didn't shy away from it, and I have to kind of like respect it for that. And then the other split narrative is Rashmina, and she lives in present day Afghanistan that's been torn apart by war, and she lives in a village that is very like dangerous. It's really dangerous for her, and you know, there's the whole war between the Americans and the Taliban. And Rashmina, she ends up coming across an American soldier, and she and her family give this American soldier like sanctuary, asylum, and the kind of what happens with that, because obviously that's very dangerous for her and her family. And again, that was also a narrative that was very hard-hitting. There was actually a moment, and this isn't a story spoiler, this is just something that happens that I think is, again, quite harrowing. Her twin brother does like strike Rashmina across the face. We have those kind of gender dynamics in this book where, you know, Rashmina is told she can't do a certain thing because she's a woman or she's a girl. All of that comes into play in this, and it's very, again, like eye-opening, very heartbreaking, and again, tough, very, very tough to read. And you know what, I saw some reviews of this as well, and I saw some people say that they weren't the biggest fan of like the whole, that side of the story, and like the whole narrative thing was very jaunty, and they didn't really care too much for it. And I'm just like, I thought both narratives were very important, especially since 9/11 didn't just happen on 9/11. I think the ramifications of that has been like long lasting, and like it's still being felt today. And I think it's definitely affected a lot of countries, and Afghanistan is one of them. We have, you know, people like Rishmina exist, and following her and seeing her journey and what it's done to her and her family is just as important as the narrative we had with Brandon being in the World Trade Center with his father. I think with any POV, if it's going to be one chapter each, because it does go Brandon, Rishmina, Brandon, Rishmina, Brandon, Rishmina, and that's just going to be jaunty no matter what, because you are like jumping from point of view to point of view. It does like kind of make sense by the end of it. You do have some kind of like thread that's going through, and it makes a lot of sense. And I just, yeah, that was good. That was like, I thought that was really well done. It could be an important read for kids if they know and if you are okay with them reading something that is rather harrowing and rather hard hitting, which is again why I don't think I can rate this book. And I'm not going to rate any books in this video because I just don't know how to rate it, quite honestly. I didn't love it. I didn't dislike it. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I can understand what it was trying to do, and I can understand like how it did that. I don't know. It's a really tough one, actually. I didn't realize just how tough these middle grade books on this list would be. Like, genuinely, like these are quite hard to rate and even quite hard to talk about because I just didn't realize the content matter of some of them would be the way they are, and that's fine. Like, it's honestly fine. Like, I'm surprised, like genuinely surprised. I don't know, but yeah, Ground Zero was good. It was good. I can see why it's nominated, and I just think you're just gonna have to have a like discussion with your kids or whoever you're gonna give it to, and just realize that it is like a very realistic depiction in a middle grade of what happened on and after 9/11. So yeah, bear that in mind going into it, and I think you'd be fine. And yeah, it was a good story. I liked it. Eyes That Kiss in the Corners is so cute. It is so adorable. The illustrations in this one, top notch. Dung Ho did a fantastic job at illustrating this beautiful piece, quite honestly. It essentially follows a young Asian girl who notices that her eyes are different to everybody else's, and she says a few times that she has eyes that kiss in the corners and glow like warm tea. And she notices that she has the same eyes as her mum, her Amar, and it's quite a nice story of like 3 generations of women as well, because it kind of goes through like how she connects with her mum and how her mum makes her feel, and then also about her Amar, her grandmother, and she can't see as well as she used to, but she can still see with her heart and her mind, which again is like such a really nice message. And it does feel like a celebration of family, and it's really nice to see the main character as well just really love and appreciate her own uniqueness from everyone else. And even though it's a very short story and I read it in literally a couple of minutes, it was one that I think is just so vital for a lot of kids, and especially Asian kids who might feel self-conscious, and I just think this will be really reaffirming. I did see some reviews online about how this would affect kind of adopted kids who are adopted and maybe don't have the same kind of eyes as their parents. I think for this story in general, I think especially with it portraying the author's own kind of experience, I think it's still a beautiful, heartwarming story that I think, yeah, a lot of kids will really, really like. There's just a huge sense of pride, especially with something like with the eyes and how they can see the imagination, they can see the hearts and minds of other people. And I think the imagination was brought to life so vividly by the illustrator as well. Like, it's gorgeous, gorgeous imagery, gorgeous illustrations. It's just a really nice, wholesome, heartwarming read. And I just wish this could have its own award, to be honest. It's just really, really nice. So I've got 6 books down, 4 more to go. I have 4 days left of this challenge because I want to try and read them before the winners are announced on December 9th. And get this video up on the Friday, December 10th. So that's what I'm hoping for. We'll see how that goes. I just want to read everything before the winners are announced so I can like make my predictions or, you know, things like that. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm off today and tomorrow, so I'm going to see if I can try and read as much as I can. I think the rest of the books on this list are rather lengthy, so I'd better make a start on them. I don't know which one to start with first. But I'm really enjoying my challenge, and I'm really enjoying my time reading this. And reading this picture book, it really helped break up the toughness of some of these books because, as I mentioned, Alone and Ground Zero were quite harrowing and rather hard-hitting, so it's nice to have something so heartwarming to break that up. So yeah, I'm feeling good, feeling very positive now, and I'm excited to tackle the rest of this challenge. I am so excited because I'm going to be watching Die Hard for the very first time with my patrons. I am excited, also a little nervous. It's 2 hours long, and I didn't realize this was a Christmas movie. Like, what the hell? Like, I'm starting a full month of watching Christmas movies with my patrons. We're watching them on a Wednesday night and a Sunday night. And we're watching like some of the bad Hallmark kind of Christmassy films on a Wednesday night. And then some of the bigger Christmas films like Muppets Christmas Carol, things like that on a Sunday night. I'm so excited. Honestly, movie nights with my patrons are the best. But I have my sweet and salted popcorn. I have my mixed fruit cider for this as well. And you know, I'm just thinking I'm off tomorrow. Why not? Why not crack open a cider? But anyway, I'm reading Beasts and Beauty, Dangerous Tales by Saman Shinani, and I will give you some of my thoughts later. But this is essentially, I didn't realize this going into it, but it's essentially short stories, but like fairy tales retold. I thought this was just one book. I thought it was just one long story. Don't know why. It did say Dangerous Tales, but you know, sometimes I don't read the small print. You know what? I'm liking it, but I don't know if I like it as a middle grade, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm enjoying it. I like the stories, but I don't know about it being a middle grade. Do you know what I mean? I will explain. I will explain when I talk more about this. But you know what? I'm 4 stories down in this. I have 8 more to go. I'm about to watch Die Hard for like the next 2 hours, or like it's pretty much a 3-hour live show with my patrons because we'll be chatting loads. But I'm determined to finish this tonight. So I will let you know everything soon. And I was so close to accidentally putting the microphone cable in the candle there. You're gonna have to watch me because I'm a dangerous tale. Well, I decided that I would love to go into town and just grab a coffee to take home with me, you know, just like a random trip out, just so I feel like I'm doing something, you know what I mean? Like, just leaving that. Saying that though, I do work 4 days a week anyway, like in an actual store. So, like, I don't need to go out, but yeah, I just want to today. My hair keeps going to my eye. Like, I want to go to Costa and get this. It's literally one of my favorite Christmas drinks, and I have my travel mug ready to go. And then the skies opened up outside, and while I was in the shower, bear in mind, like, I didn't need to go in the shower now. It's bloody wet out there. At least I feel like fresh and lovely. So I haven't dried my hair properly because there's just no point, not when I'm going out there. Like, I could just stay in and make my own coffee, but I really want that purple one latte. It was one of my favorites last year, and I want it. So yeah, I'll still do it. I need to listen to an audiobook. I finished Beast and Bethany last night while I was watching Mel's Patreon sprints. I will update you on that when I come back with my purple one latte. I hope you don't mind. In the meantime, I think I will listen to my audiobook of Arusha and the City of Gold. I'll catch you with my Costa. Like, I just need it. I've got my heart set on it now. I would go to Starbucks, but there isn't a Starbucks very nearby. It's a bit more of a walk, and I'm not into that right now. So I'm just gonna do it. I'm also gonna get my hat and gloves on and things and look all beautiful. Also, I've been wearing my face mask just like generally when I'm outside because it keeps my face warm. Like, does anybody else do that? I wear my hat, gloves, and face mask. Even when I'm not on public transport, even when I'm not at work, I just do that. I don't know about anyone else, but I want to do that now, actually. And yeah, hopefully I'm back without getting too wet. Fingers crossed. Okay, Arusha doesn't have an audiobook, so I'm listening to Starfish by Lisa Phipps instead. It's literally only like 1 hour and 40 minutes on 2 times speed. Perfect. So yeah, I've got my coat on, got my hat, my face mask. I've also put my, I'll show you. I put my Costa mug in my little hoodie, a Tom Holland hoodie. And yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's get drenched. That was partly a wasted trip because they didn't have any purple one latte. You know when you have your heart set on something that just don't have... I will be fine. I'll be fine. And I was just like, oh, that's okay. I'll just have a gingerbread latte then. But inside, I was hurting. Inside, my heart was breaking. So I'm just grieving the purple one latte that I haven't had. And I haven't had a single one yet this year. And it's what, the 6th of December now? Yeah, it's the 6th of December and I haven't had a purple one latte. But yeah, I had my gingerbread latte, so... It wasn't a fully wasted trip, and it wasn't even that bad raining-wise, so it's all good. I'm going to take off my heart. Let's have a look at my hair. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord, you sent your son to save us. I don't know, should I have a fringe more often? Anyway, okay, so let's talk about some books. And when I say books, I mean Beast and Beauty by Samantha Nani. I finished it last night, so that's another one ticked. This was all right. Like, it was good. I just don't think I enjoyed it as a middle grade. A lot of it bordered on, well, there was a little bit of sexualness and perverseness. Like, I know it's fairy tales and fairy tales are dark. Like, I've read some original fairy tales and they are dark. They are messed up. I mean, the same can be said about some of these tales, but I just felt uncomfortable for half of them. I think it was written very well for one. Like, I think that's partly why I felt so uncomfortable, was just like, it is well written, so it kind of conveyed what this book was supposed to do, you know? I mean, the whole theme of this book is the kind of correlation between beasts and beauty, and kind of how this book tries to flip it on its head so that sometimes the beast is the beauty and the beauty is the beast, you know, kind of thing. And like, that was good. That was well done. I've got a ranking of all of the short stories in this, because there is, I think, 12. I'll just talk about each one, and I'll talk in order of how I like them. My least favourite short story in this to my favourite short story in this. So the worst one in this collection, I thought personally, was The Little Mermaid. It was very short, and I'm not going to do spoilers in this vlog, but I will tell you like the kind of overall theme of each story and kind of the overall plot of each story without revealing any plot twists and things. The Little Mermaid was literally just when, you know, Ariel goes to Ursula, although they don't have names in this, but it's when the Little Mermaid goes to the Sea Witch for legs. The Sea Witch is asking her loads of questions like, what's the prince's name? Why do you love him? And stuff like that. And that goes on for about like 7 pages or something. It's essentially like a lecture from the Sea Witch to the Little Mermaid. Like, you're being silly right now and you don't know this man and yet you're going to give up everything for him and all of that. Obviously, everyone thinks it when they watch the film. Although saying that, oh, Prince Eric, oh, honestly, my favourite prince. Like, I had a huge crush on him when I was a kid. Quite possibly my gay awakening. Essentially, the Little Mermaid story was just a lecture from a sea witch to Ariel, or the Little Mermaid, about what she's given up. So that one was just a lecture, so that was my least favourite. Then Rapunzel is my second least favourite, I think. That one, again, had a good story. It had Rapunzel in the tower, and she doesn't really long to go outside for romance. She just longs to like be free and to feel the grass on her feet and things like that. But she doesn't want to prioritize anyone but herself, essentially, which, you know, honestly, it's great. But it wasn't really very interesting. It wasn't really very original either, I thought. Yeah, it was fine. And then Cinderella, it was a little bit different, to be fair. It added a mouse that was cursed. Like, Cinderella going to the ball thing still happens, and again, like, that part wasn't exactly wholly original. There was a kind of added element of not exactly a fairy godmother, but a witch, and that was pretty cool, and there was some kind of different stakes at play for that. But again, it just couldn't quite hold my interest. And then above that, Jack and the Beanstalk, I really liked being in the sky with the giant and the ogress, and I liked that whole thing. I wasn't the biggest fan of moral from that story. I mean, I know it's like a twisted kind of fairy tale, but even like the darker fairy tales had a moral. And this one kind of just didn't really do much for me, really. Kind of rewarded laziness and sloth, and just I didn't really like that one all that much, but I just like the parts in the sky with the ogress and the giant. I like that. Then above that, Peter Pan, that one probably could have been higher. That was probably the most like fleshed out story in this. It was the last story as well, and it had a good story. It kind of it did demonstrate the things that I hated about the original Peter Pan story by J.M. Barrie, and like the problems I had with it. Like, it highlighted that very well. And, you know, it didn't shy away from that. So that was good. That was well done. And I like the story with Wendy. The ending was quite heartbreaking. And yeah, I like that one. Actually, I probably will end up putting you know what, I'm going to move Peter Pan up. Let's move Peter Pan up. You know what, actually, I might put it second. I think I'm going to move it up and put it second. I enjoyed it quite a lot. I don't know why I had it that far down, to be honest. So Peter Pan is now second. Rumpelstiltskin was interesting. Now, I love the Rumpelstiltskin story. It was essentially just the same as the original, except the way that she finds out Rumpelstiltskin's name is different. And I preferred the way she found out his name from this story than in the original. Quite honestly, it was done much better in this one, but still, it just followed the same pattern as the original story, so I just didn't say anything wholly unique about it other than the finding out of the name. Bluebeard, that was interesting. I don't think I've read a Bluebeard story before, and I don't really know the legend of Bluebeard, so I don't know if this was based very wholly on the original or if it just like divulged so completely. But I liked it. It was quite sinister. It was quite graphic. And I do want to talk about like how graphic this book is, maybe for kids and stuff at the end of this ranking. But I liked the story personally. Yeah, it was a little bit scary. And I wasn't sure what was happening half the time, really. Then above that, Hansel and Gretel. Yep, pretty much followed the same formula as the story. It kind of changed the background of it, though. And it kind of changed the purpose of the witch in the woods with the house, the candy house. And I like that, like the connection between the witch, Hansel and Gretel and all of that. So that was pretty good. So that's quite high on the list. Above that, Snow White. And what I liked about Snow White is that even though, again, it just followed the same pattern as the original one, it had a bit of a different kind of ending that I really enjoyed. Is this cool enough to drink? Actually, it's not that hot. In fact, it might just be because it had cream on, and that kind of probably cooled it down a bit. So yeah, I liked the kind of twist with Snow White, which I'll not mention what that was. Beauty and the Beast is a little bit above that one. I love the Beauty and the Beast story in general. I did like the kind of tweaks to like the Belle character and her purpose and things. I don't think this is a spoiler to say because this is kind of like the whole premise of this one is that when Belle goes to the castle, she is determined to kill the beast herself. And I really liked that. That was pretty good. And then above that, Sleeping Beauty, which I think I read some reviews online and a few people didn't like this one. And I will say it is a little bit bizarre, this one. I kind of just like, it had like an LGBTQ plus twist to it. And it was a little bit bizarre. It weirdly had like a vampiric kind of side to it as well. Or vampiric, however you say it. And I just found that so interesting. Like, I think out of nearly all of these stories, that one was the most unique. I kind of like that. I enjoyed how different it was. But it does have like a kind of love conquers all kind of feel to it. And then, of course, Peter Pan, I moved into second place. And then Red Riding Hood, I think, is my favourite. It's the first one in the book. And I liked it a lot, actually. I thought it was a really good start to the kind of anthology. I liked the way it ended. I like the divulgence from the original path of the story a little bit. It doesn't stray too far off the original path, but it kind of gave me a really good feeling about this, you know, anthology. And while the whole anthology itself is up and down for me, and I didn't love all of it, it was still a pretty entertaining read. But again, I do find it so uncomfortable at times. There is a lot of, like, there's murder, there's sexual predation, there is abuse, child abuse. There is like a lot of hard-hitting themes in this book that, again, like I'm kind of a little bit sick of reading all of these hard-hitting books, quite honestly, for the shortlist. Like they've each been, I think, bordering on teen or tween or even, I don't know, like a little bit older. It's just none of them have been how I've expected them to be or wanted them to be, quite honestly. And maybe I just read them in the wrong order. I don't know. I do have, you know, some coming up that I think will be totally different. So maybe I've gotten all of those ones out of the way, I don't know. But there is a lot of romance, there is a lot of focus on appearance, and, you know, again, some of that comes across as quite uncomfortable and sexual. I've been so underwhelmed and so kind of like disappointed with the shortlist so far, not gonna lie. And it's a shame because I did read, you know, Amari and Daughter of the Deep beforehand, and I did really like those, and obviously I love Amari so much. But it seems like almost every single story I've read since has just not been great, and at least like not for this shortlist. Like Surely there are much better middle grades like Root Magic. But again, take my opinion with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion. You can differ from my opinion. That's absolutely fine. We do not have to agree on things. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for another book to make me feel the way Amari did, quite honestly. And I just don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, so I have Starfish, Irish Shah and the City Gold, and Never After left to read. Cool. So I only have 1 hour and 12 minutes left of the Starfish audiobook. And so far, I am really enjoying it. It's really good. I feel so bad for our main character. She's constantly being fat shamed at school by her family as well. Like her parents, like they have a different kind of idea of how to approach her about her weight. And like, I just say how damaging that is for her. And I feel so bad for Ellie. She gets picked on all the time. There is like so much fat shaming and name calling in this book. And like, it's purposeful. Like, I know I gave like Goosebumps a hard time for fat shaming, but that was because it was just fat shaming rooted into the actual text. Whereas in this, it's very purposeful. I think it's doing such a great job at highlighting the impact words have on young kids, especially in terms of their weight. Like, it's heartbreaking to see Ellie experience all this. And the worst part is from her family. Like, honestly, like when you hear what her siblings say, what her mum says, like her mum wants her to have surgery, her dad wants her to go to therapy, and so she's torn between two. And Ellie feels so much guilt because she sees her, you know, parents fighting, she sees things happening around her, and she thinks it's her fault. I just want to like hug her and be like, look, it's not your fault. Like, please don't listen to anyone. Just stop. You are beautiful. Just don't listen to them. Yeah, I feel so much compassion for her. It is again another heavy-hitting middle grade book that's on this list. I was hoping I could read Arusha next so that I could move away from that, but fortunately this is quite a short one and I am liking it a lot. I think it's beautifully written. Yeah, I just have so much compassion for Elliot, quite honestly. So I will update you on that in like an hour and a half when I finish it, and then hopefully I can start the last two books. I might do Arusha tonight and then try and do Never After tomorrow at work, or like to and from work. I really want this shortlist to like kind of redeem me because I love middle grade so much, and I've really tried with these ones and they're just not connecting with me personally. But Starfish so far is pretty good. It might actually be my favorite new read for this video because I don't count Amari and Daughter of the Deep. They're kind of books I read beforehand. Starfish is my first like new read for this video that I'm like really enjoying, which is terrible because I only have 3 books left to finish. Another book down, we have finished Starfish by Lisa Phipps, and it was really, really good. There were so many fantastic messages in that book for kids who are bullied, and especially kids who are bullied for their weight. And you know what, even with that as well, I feel like a lot of kids who are bullied for whatever reason will be able to take so much from this book. There is a really touching author's note at the very end as well, which was honestly so nice and so heartwarming for the author to do. And yeah, it was just a really fantastic read. And finally, a book, or at least a new book that I've read for this video that I really do love. I think I have a lot of unresolved childhood trauma, not gonna lie. And books like this kind of help me, even as an adult, to appreciate it and to kind of confront my own demons and my own problems. So honestly, like, huge props to Lisa Phipps for writing something that really resonates with even me as an adult. So thank you so much. But yeah, it is a great contemporary. Again, I really enjoy the character of Ellie. I found her story heartbreaking, especially when it came to her family and feeling like she wasn't loved by certain members of her family. And it kind of does help having Ellie make decisions and go through her journey to see how she responds and what lessons she learns while she's doing that. And I think it will really help people when they're trying to confront their own bullies, their own demons, and, you know, overcoming it, hopefully. So an honestly great change of pace for this video, quite honestly. I was starting to lose hope, but no, saying that, each middle grade I've read for this video, even the ones I didn't fully love, have their kind of positives as well. I say why they were on the list. Yeah, I think Starfish so far out of the new books is definitely a winner for me. I was looking at this actually, and I looked at the past like 10, 11 years of the Goodreads Choice Awards, and Rick Riordan has won every single year in this category. Every single year since 2011, a Rick Riordan book has won. Some have gotten kind of close, but it's just never really been a contest. So my mind is still set that Daughter of the Deep will win, even though I want Amari and the Night Brothers to win. But I would really love to see Starfish do really well in these awards too. It feels like such an important book and one that I would wholeheartedly recommend. Wholeheartedly. Like, this is another thing for this video. Like, would I recommend this to children? Some of them possibly not, depending on how you kind of approach heavier topics, and some of them have been a little bit violent and quite graphic. But Starfish, yes, 100% I would recommend to kids. So yay, we have a winner, but at least a winner in my heart. Amari and the Night Brothers for fantasy, Starfish for contemporary. Yeah, let's see what the next one brings. I will be reading Shah and the City of Gold on the Kindle. I find it so great to change up formats on how you read books, especially when you're reading so many in a short amount of time. For me, my mind and attention span can be very limiting, and sometimes if I'm reading too many physical books at once or listening to too many audiobooks at once, I start to disconnect and I don't really want to read anymore. However, I've changed it up quite a bit in this video. I've listened to audiobooks, I've read physically, and now I'm going to be changing to an ebook. So really excited about that. I think I will fly through this next book. Honestly, Shah and the City of Gold, the fourth book in the Pandora Quintet series. It follows Aru, who in the first book accidentally unleashes, I think it was a sleeper demon, and there's Hindu mythology woven into it because it is a Rick Riordan Presents book, so that is what you come to expect from that line. I did kind of start reading it a little bit. There was an author note from Roshni Chokshi at the very start about how it's important that the story's roots come from a living, active religion, which is Hinduism. One of the most beautiful aspects about Hindu mythology is that it is deeply intertwined with the sacred. As a practicing Hindu, I wanted to let my imagination take flight, but also do my best to make sure that it doesn't stamp its feet on hallowed grounds. This story is not intended to serve as an introduction to Hinduism or Hindu mythology, which is beautifully nuanced and varies from region to region. Instead, I hope you see the story for what it is, a narrow, vivid window peering out into an even brighter ocean of tales and traditions. I mean, I loved the first three Shah books, and I just know I'm going to love this one too. I am ready. I'm so pumped. And you know what? I need a great fantasy. I mean, I did like Beast and Beauty, just not really as a middle grade. This one, I just know I'm going to love. Roshni Chokshi has not done me wrong yet. So let's get into Shah and the City of Gold. Oh my god, I forgot book 3 ended on such a big cliffhanger. I started reading this and instantly I had flashbacks. And why didn't I read this earlier? Like, honestly, I'm already living for it. I'm only like 2 pages in. Literally cannot believe I let the cliffhanger last this long. That was on me. That was on me. I did an interview with Roshni back in April, and this was just before the book was released, and I was so excited for it then. And it's taken this long to get to it. I am an absolute disgrace. Honestly, I'm just so excited for the rest of this book because that cliffhanger was so great. And I'm excited to see how this unfolds. I'm so excited. Oh, I love Arusha so much. Honestly, this series, the Arusha Pandava Quintet series, is literally becoming one of my favorite middle grade series. It's just so good. And I think one of the reasons why I love this series so much is because of the characters. We have some fantastic characters, and Aru is so funny. Honestly, like, I want to tell you a moment. Again, no story spoilers, which is actually why it's harder to talk about this one than some of the previous ones, because this is the fourth book in a 5-book series. And I know like Bridge of Souls is like a third book in a 3-book series, so that made it a little bit harder. But I was a little bit more critical of Bridge of Souls rather than the Arusha. I'm not going to be critical for Arusha at all. Arusha and the City of Gold is fantastic. I love it. But there was a moment when Bryn and Kara are about to fight, and just randomly, Aru has made popcorn and she's just eating the popcorn. And it's just, this is the kind of humor that you will find in this series. It's just so down to earth. It's just randomly funny, and I just really enjoy it. One thing that I wasn't the biggest fan of in Bridge of Souls, but I am a fan of in Arusha is, pop culture references. I think it's because the whole Cassidy Blake series relies too heavily on a specific entity as a pop culture reference thing, whereas, oh, I've got something on the microphone. And whereas with Arusha, there's just loads of different references, like references to nearly anything and everything. It's always done in a way that's quite humorous rather than, leading the character's personality. Like, I feel like Aru is her own person and she just spits out these pop culture references every now and then that just make her a bit more relatable and a bit more funny. Whereas when I read pop culture references in YA books, for example, sometimes they just come across as far too much, and I usually end up hating them because of the way they're used. Whereas Pandava Quintet series, so good. Roshni Chokshi knows how to use references. And also, Roshni Chokshi knows how to bloody write, okay? Like, I love the series so much, and I think it's gotten, like, better and better as it's gone on. I just find it so exciting, so action-packed. There is a great quest, a great adventure to go on in this book that I think a lot of people, when they're reading this, will totally feel thrilled by and enchanted by. It's just non-stop. I mean, there is, stopping. There is moments of reprieve and, character moments and all of that. And, like, I love Aru and Aiden. Just saying, like, I love their relationship and their chemistry is fantastic. As well, like, Aru and Kara, I love how they're developing their kind of dynamic. I will say the blurb of this book spoils the kind of ending of book 3, so be wary of that if you haven't yet read the book, or if you haven't read the series and you want to, maybe stay away from the summaries of the book. I'm not going to mention the summaries or anything in this video, so don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but yeah, just be mindful of that. But oh my gosh, I just didn't want to stop reading. It was just so exciting. So many great things happened. I have nothing bad to say about it, honestly. Like, I've got nothing bad to say, which is great. Oh, yeah, also, I love when Rick Riordan Presents authors support other Rick Riordan Presents authors. There was a random mention of Sal and Gabby Break the Universe, and I love it. It was a direct mention, like, of the actual book title. And I was just reading that, like, oh, I really enjoyed Sal and Gabby Break the Universe, actually. I thought it was really good. I read it last year for Believathon. I think the round 2, I think it was. Is there somebody banging outside? Like, honestly. Bins. The bins need to be taken out tonight. Oh, okay, I'll have to do that after, because I accidentally missed bin collection day 2 weeks ago for the, household waste. Last week it was the recycling, and then the week before that was household, so it's household waste again tonight. But I missed it 2 weeks ago, so I've had, like, rubbish building up. So I need to put my bin out tonight. If I forget... But yeah, anyway, Pandava Quintet series, Arusha and the City of Gold. I love how the consequences of Aru's actions really had an effect in this book as well. Like, things and decisions in everything she's done in the previous 3 books, a lot of it comes back to bite her on the bum. And it's just great to say, I love the continuity. I love how everything is connecting, and it just feels like such a well-plotted, well-crafted series. And now we are going into the final book next year. Like, I'm a bit nervous, but I'm also really excited because I know it's in good hands. Like, I'm not scared about the series ending rubbish, because each book so far has just been better than the last. They've just had a kind of good story that's been plotted and drawn out very well. And I think it was supposed to be 4 books, I think, originally. and now it's 5. And I'm glad because I don't think we could have wrapped everything up by the end of this book. And there were some interesting things that happened at the end of this book as well. Like, again, some twists and turns. And can't wait for the 5th book, which I think is called The Nectar of Immortality, I think. But I'm just so excited, so excited. I'll be watching Steph and Jade's sprints for the festive readathon, so I'm going to go back to watching that. I might start the next book, the final book for this vlog, or I might just have a chilled night, I don't know. But the final book, Never After, Melissa de la Cruz, I'll have to list on audiobook because I don't own it any other way. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting, I think. And to see if my ranking of the Goodreads Choice Awards books will change based on the final book I need to read for it. Will be interesting to see. We are now on the final lap. That is the entire shortlist done. Yes. And you know what? It's only December 8th. Well, it's just turned midnight on December 8th. December 7th, it doesn't matter. I finished. And I feel so accomplished. I actually read them a lot quicker than I anticipated. Yeah, I guess I'm just better than I thought. Yeah, I finished Never After, or it's the 13th Fairy. It's part of the Never After series by Melissa de la Cruz. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was so good. It's actually a really good kind of start to a series. I was really intrigued by the premise of it. I was intrigued by the prologue of it. I'm a little bit out of breath after that little dance party, not gonna lie. Right, so I'm going to tell you what the whole book is about, but the prologue is a little bit different to the rest of the book. I mean, it sets things up nicely. So the prologue is very Sleeping Beauty-esque. There is a new princess born into this kingdom of Never After, and there are 13 fairies, but 11 of them have been brought to this palace, this castle, to bless this new princess. But there are supposed to be 13 fairies, the 12th fairy is dead, and the 13th fairy is missing. However, an evil enchantress comes and curses the baby, and you know, that's the whole like Sleeping Beauty aspect of it. And then we go into present day and we follow Philomena. Well, 1, great name. 2, great character. In fact, I saw a lot of Shah in Philomena, but she is obsessed with the book series. I think the book series was just called Never After, you know, the same as the series name. So she's obsessed with Never After, and the 13th and final book of the series is supposed to come out. So she goes to the bookstore and everything, but when she gets to the bookstore, turns out that the book is never going to be published, and the author has been missing for years or has been dead for years. There's just not going to be a 13th book, even though book 12 ended on a huge cliffhanger. So then Philomena ends up walking home, and she is kind of attacked / runs into the hero of the Never After stories. From then on, it's just like a whirlwind of adventure. It has a lot of fairy tale-ness to the story. We have so many different settings, so many different locales. We have Philomena go to the world of Never After, and it's just such a great time, honestly. I was enjoying reading it. I was listening to the audiobook. I don't have it physically, but I would love to get it physically because I really enjoyed it. I really can't wait to read more from the series. I mean, the prologue was totally different from what I was expecting because it was told in such a lyrical, rhyming way, and it did feel like Sleeping Beauty. And then going into the present day, it was such a shift. And it worked. I think it helps that Melissa de la Cruz has such a great writing style, and she can write really well. She's done like the Descendants series, and she's done like Witches of East End, which I have read Witches of East End. I read it a few years back. I was obsessed with the TV show on Lifetime. Oh, it was so good. Why did they have to cancel it after 2 seasons? I really enjoyed Witches of East End. I can't remember if I liked the book though. I might have to reread it. And I haven't read the Descendants books yet, but it kind of does have that kind of Disney Channel original movie Descendants feel to Never After. I could totally see this playing out as a Disney Channel original movie. It was so interesting. Did I write anything else on my notes? I think I just wrote positive things. Yeah, I literally barely wrote anything. You know what? It was just one of those books where I sat down, listened, enjoyed, took it all in, and it was just such a fun time. I like the world. I like the world building. It made for such a great premise with all these fairy tale likenesses all put in. I'm just repeating myself, so I'm just going to shut up. Just thought it was good. And I feel like it's harder talking about books that I enjoyed because, yeah, I'm just gushing. I'm not saying anything unique to you. I'm not really convincing you to pick it up. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. So yes, I will be continuing the series. I think this is the only first in a series from this video. I don't know if Daughter of the Deep is going to be a series or a standalone. Was there anything else I read that was a series? Oh, Amari and the Night Brothers. Again, I don't count it because I read it well before the Goodreads Choice Awards. But for the new books in this video, Never After was such a great start to a series. Because I ended up reading these a lot faster than I thought I would, I was going to try and wait until Thursday to see the results. But it's literally like Tuesday night. So I'm pretty much done. Right, I want to let you know my ranking, my personal Goodreads Choice Award ranking, and then tell you what I think will happen. So I'm just going to position myself in the middle so that I can do my ranking things. Oh my god, I'm so smart. In first place, for me, personally, for the Goodreads Choice Award, is Amari and the Night Brothers. It was a given. That was never going to change. And then number 2, Arusha and the City of Gold. Loved it. And then number 3, Daughter of the Deep. I know I kind of gave some negatives about it, but it was actually still really, really good. And it was a fun time. And number 4, Never After, the 13th Fairy, I think is, yeah, definitely my number 4. And you can see that because fantasy is my go-to genre, my top 4 is the fantasy, and that's not going to change. Number 5, Starfish. I thought the game was fantastic, a great contemporary. Number 6, Eyes That Kiss in the Corners. Such a beautiful picture book. Number 7, Bridge of Souls. Number 8, Ground Zero. Number 9, Beasts and Beauty. And then number 10, Alone. And again, Alone isn't a bad book. It wasn't for me. It was not for me. Here is what I think will happen. Here is what I think the Goodreads voters have voted for. Because I think the voting is closed now. So there's just no change in it. Me saying this right now is not changing a thing. But this is what I think the Goodreads Choice Awards will look like. So number 1, I think it will be Daughter of the Deep. I feel bad that no other author is going to win this award when Rick Riordan has a new book out, quite honestly. Since 2011, he's won every single year. Every single year. And that, I don't think that's going to change this year. I really don't. And then number 2, I think Bridge of Souls will come second, because I've seen how highly placed the Cassidy Blake series has been in the past, because books 1 and 2 have both been nominated in the past and have come pretty much second. And I think when it was 2019 and Tunnel of Bones came out, I think there was like maybe a 3,000 vote difference between Rick Riordan and Victoria Schwab. So it was a close one, so I think it will probably be close again between them two. And then number 3, I think Amari and the Night Brothers. I think so much great word of mouth of Amari and the Night Brothers happened this year, and so many people have discovered it and loved it. And I think that might help propel it up the Goodreads ranking. Fingers crossed, honestly. Yeah, I don't think it will quite surpass Schwab and Riordan. And Schwab and Riordan have huge fan bases, so unfortunately I think it will come third. Maybe fourth, because Beasts and Beauty I have put like fourth. I think that will come fourth. I've also looked at the past rankings, and Saman Shinani for the School for Good and Evil series has done pretty well for those as well. They've never really come close to winning. They've kind of gotten around about like 10,000 votes. So I think that might come fourth, and then Arusha and the City of Gold under that. I think Starfish will be the contemporary that a lot of people will love, and hopefully it does pretty well for the contemporaries. Never After, I think, might come 7th. Ground Zero and Alone, I think, will come 8th and 9th. But then I think Eyes That Kiss in the Corners might come last, because, you know, I feel like not a lot of people are going to be voting for the picture book. The one picture book against 9 middle grade, which feels a bit unfair, quite honestly. There isn't a separate category for picture books, but I think there was in the previous year, I think. But it's still such a great picture book, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's what I think will happen. It will be interesting to see if I'm right at all, if I'm anywhere near that. I'm probably totally wrong. I think for definite though, Daughter of the Deep will win. That is my main prediction. I will probably leave a pinned comment down below to say how I did with my prediction. You know, again, I would include my reaction to the shortlist in this video, but, you know, waiting 2 days for it just to find out Daughter of the Deep won is just, I don't think it's worth it. So I'm just going to do a pinned comment. Don't forget to leave your comments down below as well. I would love to hear your thoughts on the Goodreads Choice Awards, on the middle grade shortlist, and what you thought of them, like which one's your winner. I would love to know all of that, so do let me know. And before I wrap up, please do give this video a like if you enjoy, and subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. I am so chuffed that I managed to do this. This was a really fun little challenge. I may do it next year. I may do a different category next year. I don't know. It depends, because I was really surprised by the shortlist. I mean, a lot of them I could see why they were on the shortlist. Some of them are just so hard hitting and so heavy. But, you know, what do I know? What do I know? But it's been an interesting experiment, a very interesting experiment. And again, I have to give credit to Kayla and Chandler for inspiring me to do this video. And I know there are like lots of other booktubers who do this type of video, but those two are the ones that probably inspired me the most to do this. I loved their ones from last year. And ever since then, I was like, oh, I really want to do one for middle grade. And here it is. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy and so proud that I've done it. Yay. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye. And let's get snuggly. Oh no, I forgot to make a tea.